And Turkey restricted all access to warships entering the Black Sea.
Turkey is stepping forward as the self-appointed adult in the room of the Black Sea, warning that the war must not creep any closer to its coastline.
Russia used to treat the Black Sea as a controlled space, not uncontested, but manageable. A place where pressure could be applied gradually, where naval power could be rotated, where escalation could be dialed up or down without losing control. That assumption no longer holds, and the reason is not a massive NATO fleet suddenly appearing on the horizon. It is not a dramatic naval battle. It is not even a single visible confrontation. It is a shift underneath the surface. Because in the Black Sea, control does not come from how many ships you can show. It comes from who decides what can move, when it can move, and what might already be waiting unseen. That is where Turkey enters the story. To be clear, Russia's freedom of action at sea has already been stressed by Ukraine's long-range strikes, sea drones, and the simple reality that operating close to the Ukrainian coastline has become expensive and risky. Public reporting has described Russia shifting more of its most valuable ships away from Sevastopol toward places like Novorossiysk as the threat picture evolved. What Turkey adds is different. Turkey is not the actor firing the shots in most of these episodes. Turkey is the actor tightening the environment Russia has to operate inside. Not by confronting Russia directly, not by threatening force, but by shaping the rules, the access, and the undersea uncertainty that Russia cannot afford to ignore. And the most important tool in that shift is not on the surface, it is below it. Turkey's submarine posture has reached a point where Russia can no longer assume freedom of movement in the Black Sea. Not safely, not quietly, and not without risk compounding faster than Moscow would like. This is the part that matters. In enclosed seas, submarines do not need to fire to be decisive. They only need to be possible. Once Russia has to assume a capable undersea presence exists, every other naval action slows down. Surface ships become cautious, routes get adjusted, patrol patterns change, command decisions become conservative. That is how control erodes without a single shot being fired. And Turkey understands this better than almost anyone, because Turkey is not just nearby. Turkey is the gate. By 2026, Turkey is not positioning itself as a symbolic naval power. It is positioning itself as a gatekeeper with teeth. It controls access to the Black Sea through the Turkish Straits. And in 2022, it invoked Montreux authorities to restrict the passage of warships from belligerent parties, shaping the reinforcement logic of the theater in a way no other NATO country can replicate. That combination is devastating to a pressure-based strategy. Russia's Black Sea fleet was built to operate with the assumption that escalation would be gradual, that rotations could happen, that escalation could be shaped before it became dangerous. Turkey quietly breaks that model. Because once submarines become a persistent question rather than a known variable, pressure strategies start to crack. And by 2026, Turkey's submarine force is designed for exactly that kind of environment. Not blue water dominance, not global power projection, but denial. Denial of certainty, denial of freedom, denial of safe assumptions. This is why the Black Sea balance can shift without headlines. Russia still has ships, it still has bases, it still has missiles, but what it no longer has is confidence. And confidence is everything in a sea where you cannot maneuver freely. What makes Turkey dangerous to Russia in the Black Sea is not just what it operates, it is where it sits. The Black Sea is not an open ocean. It is an enclosed arena with only one real doorway. And Turkey controls it. That single fact shapes everything Russia does south of Ukraine. Unlike the Atlantic or Pacific, Russia cannot freely rotate forces in and out of the Black Sea once a crisis begins. It cannot reinforce at will. And after 2022, the rules and politics of the Straits mattered more, not less. Turkey's enforcement of Montreux limits the range of surge options Russia can count on in a high-tension moment, especially if escalation involves belligerent parties. That makes submarines exponentially more powerful. In an enclosed sea, a submarine does not need to hunt aggressively to shape outcomes. It only needs to exist in the right places often enough to force caution. Every Russian surface movement must assume it is being watched. Every patrol must assume tracking. Every deployment must assume it could be intercepted without warning. This is where Turkey's approach differs from almost every other NATO navy. Turkey does not treat the Black Sea as a secondary theater. It treats it as a home environment. Its crews train for shallow waters, dense shipping traffic, complex acoustics, and cluttered coastlines. Those are not ideal conditions for big blue water navies. They are ideal conditions for denial. And this is where 2026 matters. Turkey is modernizing the force that lives in that environment, including newer boats associated with the Race-class program entering service and expanding capability over time. Russia feels this pressure constantly, because every time a Russian ship leaves port, the question is no longer who is watching. It becomes who might already be there. That uncertainty compounds quickly. Surface ships slow down. Anti-submarine escorts get reassigned. Routes become more predictable. Patrol patterns tighten. The more Russia tries to protect itself, the easier it becomes to map its behavior. This is the paradox Turkey exploits. It does not need to challenge Russia everywhere. It only needs to make Russia cautious everywhere. There is also a political layer Moscow cannot escape. Turkey is a Black Sea state. Any Russian response aimed at Turkey risks regional escalation immediately. That removes the ambiguity Russia prefers when applying pressure. An incident involving Turkey does not stay slow. That reality forces restraint long before confrontation ever becomes visible. By 2026, this combination of geography, access control, and undersea presence means Russia's Black Sea fleet operates under permanent friction. Not blockade, not defeat, friction, and friction is lethal to pressure strategies because pressure requires freedom of movement. It requires confidence in escalation control. It requires the ability to test boundaries without consequences spiraling. Turkey removes that freedom quietly. Russia can still operate, but it cannot operate comfortably. And in an enclosed sea, discomfort is enough to change behavior. The real shift does not come from how many submarines Turkey has. It comes from what those submarines force Russia to assume. By 2026, Turkey's submarine force is not just built around peacetime patrols. It is structured for persistence. Crews trained to operate quietly in shallow, cluttered waters. Missions designed to deny certainty rather than seek confrontation. That distinction matters. Russia's Black Sea fleet is not designed to operate under permanent uncertainty. Its surface movements, patrol routes, and logistics flows depend on predictable patterns. When those patterns are disrupted, the entire fleet becomes cautious. And caution is corrosive. A Turkish submarine does not need to fire a weapon to have an effect. The moment it is believed to be operating, Russian commanders have to assume their movements may be observed. That assumption changes how fast ships move, how often they deploy, and how aggressively they posture. By 2026, that effect is amplified by modernization. Public reporting describes Turkey bringing newer submarines into service through the Race-class program, which strengthens endurance and undersea persistence over time. And this pressure stacks on top of an already changed Black Sea environment. Ukraine's strikes have demonstrated that high-value assets can be threatened even in ports and approaches Russia once treated as relatively safe, including around Novorossiysk in recent reporting. So Turkey is not creating the entire problem for Russia. Turkey is making the problem harder to solve, because what Turkey adds is uncertainty without escalation. Every Russian deployment now carries hidden risk, not catastrophic risk, persistent risk. The kind that slows planning cycles, the kind that turns assertive naval signaling into conservative movement. That slowdown matters more than firepower, because Russia's naval pressure in the Black Sea has never been about decisive battle at sea. It has been about presence, about signaling control, about shaping behavior on land through maritime pressure. When Russia itself starts feeling watched, the dynamic flips. Turkey understands this deeply. It does not attempt to outgun Russia at sea. It attempts to outlast Russia's comfort, to make Russian commanders operate under constant friction while Turkey's posture remains calm and routine. Russian ships still sail, Russian submarines still deploy, but every movement feels heavier, every patrol feels exposed, every escalation feels harder to manage, and that feeds upward into political decision-making. When naval options feel brittle, political options narrow. When escalation feels uncontrollable, pressure strategies lose value. This is the quiet way the balance breaks. Not with a clash, not with a declaration, but with Russia realizing the Black Sea is no longer a space where it can operate freely, confidently, or on its own terms. And Turkey does not need to announce that reality. Russia is already planning around it. This is where the problem becomes structural. Russia sees the patrol patterns change. It sees the silence. It sees the gaps where certainty used to exist. And by 2026, it faces something uncomfortable. There is no clean counter. Russia has three theoretical options when a maritime balance shifts against it. It can surge forces, it can escalate aggressively, or it can adapt quietly and wait. None of those are clean in the Black Sea. Surging forces is constrained by geography and law. Turkey's role under Montreux gives it leverage over the straits in wartime conditions. And in 2022, Turkey moved to restrict warship passage linked to the war, shaping what reinforcement looks like in practice. Escalation is worse. Any overt attempt to challenge Turkey directly risks something Russia tries to avoid: a crisis with a NATO power that controls the choke point the theater depends on. Russia does not fear confrontation in abstract terms. It fears confrontation it cannot localize. Turkey makes localization harder. That leaves adaptation. Quiet adjustments, more conservative routing, reduced presence in higher risk areas. But adaptation comes with its own cost, because adapting to uncertainty means surrendering initiative. And this is where recent patterns matter. Reporting has described Russia moving major assets away from the most exposed basing patterns as Ukrainian strike capabilities grew, which is a shift from dominance toward survivability. Turkey's submarines accelerate that trend without needing to fire. By 2026, Russia is not only asking how to signal control, it is asking how to operate without losing assets. That is a downgrade in strategic ambition. This is the trap Turkey sets. If Russia escalates, it risks internationalizing the crisis. If Russia tries to surge, it runs into ceilings it cannot easily bypass. If Russia adapts quietly, it concedes initiative and accepts long-term erosion. None of those restore dominance, because Turkey's advantage is not episodic. It is persistent. The crews are trained for this basin. The patrol logic is routine. The uncertainty is baked in. Russia can tolerate threats it understands. It can manage rivals it can track. It struggles with environments where it cannot be sure who is watching. By 2026, the Black Sea becomes exactly that environment. And the most destabilizing part is not what Turkey might do. It is what Russia can no longer safely do. Naval signaling loses credibility. Pressure patrols lose meaning. Presence stops equaling control. Russia does not lose the Black Sea in a single battle. It loses it in planning rooms, where every option now comes with a risk Moscow cannot confidently price. By 2026, the Black Sea does not look like a battlefield. It looks quiet, and that is exactly the problem for Russia. There are no dramatic fleet clashes, no public standoffs, no headline moment where control visibly changes hands. Instead, something far more damaging settles in. Russia loses confidence in its own freedom of action. The Black Sea used to be a space where Moscow could signal power cheaply. A ship deployment here, a patrol there. A show of presence meant to remind neighbors who set the rules. That model depended on visibility and predictability. Russia needed others to see its forces and react. Submarines break that logic. By 2026, Turkey's undersea posture contributes to a Black Sea where Russia must assume it is being watched without being able to confirm it. Every movement carries uncertainty, every patrol risks exposure, every escalation calculation starts with doubt, and that doubt stacks on top of a modern reality. Ukraine has shown it can threaten high-value targets through maritime drones and other asymmetric methods, including incidents reported around Novorossiysk that Russia has disputed, but that's still force planning caution either way. So a Russian surface ship no longer signals strength just by leaving port, it can signal vulnerability. Exercises become careful, patterns get hidden, operations become about not revealing routes rather than demonstrating power. This is how dominance erodes, not through defeat, through self-limitation. Turkey does not need to challenge Russia directly to achieve this. It does not need a dramatic showdown. It simply maintains a capability level that makes Russian planning uncomfortable, and discomfort is lethal to pressure strategies. Pressure works when the initiator feels confident and the target feels uncertain. By 2026, that balance is less stable. Turkey can operate calmly. Russia has to calculate more nervously. This also changes how other actors behave. NATO planners factor Turkish undersea presence into Black Sea scenarios. Regional states adjust posture quietly as Russia's intimidation margin narrows. None of this requires a new treaty announcement. It happens because the environment changes. The Black Sea becomes a managed space rather than a dominated one. And that is the worst outcome for Moscow, because Russia's naval power in the Black Sea has never been only about fighting ships. It has been about shaping behavior on land through maritime pressure. Once that pressure stops working reliably, naval power loses political return. By 2026, Turkey has not seized control of the Black Sea. It has done something more effective. It has denied Russia the ability to control it. That denial does not end competition. It does not end risk. But it changes who has to be careful first. Russia can still operate, it can still deploy, it can still threaten, but it does so knowing that every move may already be understood by someone it cannot see. And in modern warfare, that knowledge shapes behavior more than firepower ever could. This is why one Turkish submarine does not just alter patrol patterns, it alters assumptions. And once assumptions break, control follows. Not in a single moment, not in a single clash, but through a sustained loss of certainty that is very hard to reverse.